Hi, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Gay Gerard, and I'm your host. Thank you so much for joining us today. I have an extraordinary guest. Selasi Birdie is here. Selasi is a former NRL football player, and he's here to share his story, how he came about creating the world's very first vegan baby formula with his new company called Sprout Organic, along with his wife. And later in the episode, he's also going to be sharing some great advice for any aspiring entrepreneurs out there that are looking to make a positive change and impact in the health and wellness of our world today. So let's dive right in. Selasi, thank you so much for being here today. It's
Thanks,
great to
Alan.
have you here.
Cool.
You've got the most interesting career. I'd love to just dive right in. Whereabouts did you grow up? And what was your environment like and your health and your lifestyle?
Yeah, it was. I was one of the very fortunate people to be born from my generation. I'm African by descent, but my parents moved to Melbourne, Australia. So I was actually born in Melbourne, Fitzroy Carlton, northern area of Melbourne, and then had a great childhood growing up there. All back way. I was born in 1986. And then from Melbourne, there was a bit of a journey of travel where my dad was studying engineering and he took up a professor role in Papua New Guinea, out of all places. So we moved there when I was quite young, around the ages of 6. Ended up in Papua New Guinea for 4 years. Anyone that's been there would know that it's a very dangerous place. So it wasn't sustainable to stay there for too long.
Right.
Mining, therefore, because he is a geotechnical engineer, a doctor in it, then took us from Papua New Guinea to Mackay, North Queensland, because that's where a lot of the mining boom started happening in Australia. It was either going to be there or Western Australia, and from Papua New Guinea, North Queensland was closer, so we ended up there. And then did my last lot of years of high school there. I went back to Melbourne for a small period of time to do a tennis scholarship, out of all things, and then
Brilliant.
came back to North Queensland to finish up high school, which is where I ended up playing rugby league for the first time, because it's obviously quite popular in the north part of Queensland. And then was just fortunate enough to play a schoolboy game and get in front of the right people. Arthur Beetson at the time, who's a Roosters legend, then said, would you like a scholarship with the Sydney City Roosters? And then from there it was kind of took that scholarship and then went down to Sydney for a bit. And then I found out that the Titans were coming into the competition, and my uni degree actually fit very well with what was going on the Gold Coast. So I took that opportunity to move to the Gold Coast when I was 18, and have been here since, and fortunately got to play a couple professional rugby league games with the Titans, and then since then have launched a lot of different health and wellness businesses up on the Gold Coast.
Okay, right. That's fascinating. So I find it really interesting. At what point in your life or in your health journey, number one, did you have any health challenges that you had to overcome? And I understand that you're plant-based now. So what led you to being plant-based, and how did that impact your health and performance as an athlete?
Yeah, so I think probably I'd always been curious around the aspect of how I could really amplify my performance just in health and wellness, just in general. So I studied exercise science at university, and I also studied marketing, and I really wanted to work out. I knew from a very early time point that I was going to be up against it from a rugby league setting, because the position I played meant there were going to be bigger and faster people than me. It was just the nature of the beast. But I always thought if I could manage my health and nutrition better than anyone, it would give me an advantage.
Absolutely.
So I ended up working for a company called Body Size, which is a sports nutrition company, one of the biggest ones in Australia, and really started learning more and more about different things there. And strangely enough, my biggest products that I had to develop were whey proteins, casein proteins. And whilst at the time I thought that makes sense and all these different things with proteins, I started therefore realizing from a digestive health point of view, I didn't feel great when I would take it. And then I thought, what is happening on the other side of this that's causing these things? Then it started kind of a research process for myself. And then I eventually said to the guys at Body Science, I'd love to do plant-based protein. At the time, I wasn't plant-based at all. I was still playing rugby league. I was working part-time at Body Science, but I said, if I can do an organic vegan protein, what would everyone think? They're a bit skeptical, but I said, I really do think that from a digestion point of view, an amino profile point of view, if it's done the right way, and also a sustainability point of view, this could be really good. So I went down that path, launched it, and it was great. And I consumed it myself and went, this is really good. I feel really good on this. What other plant-based options should I be looking at that I've had neglected in my diet? And then I just kept researching more and more. I read a book called The China Study.
Yes.
Really made me think about things very differently. Kept doing my own personal research on myself, found that I started having more energy. When I would eat meat, I would just feel tired. I think everyone's probably had that aspect of going, I've eaten a steak or something, why do I feel like sleeping? Because the digestive load can be so heavy on the body. And then I went, well, if I eat other proteins, be it lentils, legumes, beans, whatever may have you, tofu in this space, and I don't feel like that, let me try that for a bit. I didn't feel tired. And I was obviously doing a lot of work, both athletically and also from a business point of view. So I was getting a lack of sleep. So I had to try and maintain high energy levels to juggle everything. And then eventually I just went, well, this seems to be working, be it from the plant proteins. I already had a lot of veggies in my diet. I was able to get a really cool plant protein supplement if I was ever in need of anything extra, that it just made sense then to go down the plant-based lifestyle line.
Yeah, that's incredible. So going back to your time at Nutrition Science, what was your actual role there? Were you in the developing different products? What was your role?
Yeah. So my time at Body Science, I was the R&D manager there, so research and development manager.
Okay.
So that was my primary role. By the time I ended it there, I was probably doing a few more things in both R&D and marketing and sales, but underpinning it was mainly product development was the main thing that I was responsible for.
That's incredible. And so, what excited you most about the plant-based proteins, and how did you take that journey? What was the first step for that?
Yeah, what probably excited me the most was just the aspect of going, this isn't something that from a sustainability point of view felt like it was costing the earth. Like at the back of my mind, I always kind of realized that dairy in itself is a heavy load on the environment, no matter which way you do it, whether it's in a protein supplement or a milk jug or cheese, whatever it is, it can be quite strenuous on the environment. And I looked at this and went, this isn't having that detrimental cost. But then when I started consuming it myself, I also started going, just from an ease of consumption in terms of I don't feel bloaty or gassy or wind or anything like that, but I'm still getting optimal protein, therefore getting optimal performance and recovery. Then it started to make a lot more sense that maybe I should really be pushing further down this line. And then thirdly, obviously, there was an aspect of ethical reasons around animals, which a lot of times for people that comes first, in which I can understand. You see cruelty, and it can be very confronting with what happens in the animal welfare space. But for me, it was actually the other way around, where it was health first. And then I found out, obviously, the levels of different things that can go on within the food, I guess, mass food consumption space at the moment. So, yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I was also in the same sort of boat as you. Health for me, that was my turning point and sort of what drew me to the whole lifestyle. And then as I've gone on over the years, I've read more, researched more, and discovered the animal cruelty, and it just puts everything into a greater perspective, I think, and it gives me a different sort of motivation to carry on. So it's interesting. How long after you sort of moved towards more of a plant-based diet did you start to see the physical benefits and even the mental benefits, and what were some of those benefits you experienced?
For me, it was pretty instantaneous. Mainly, I was very in tune with my body from athletic endeavors, but probably more than anything was the knowledge around just energy levels were my big thing, where I would go, food should be fuel. Like you eat food to be able to deliver a performance outcome. be it just, it could be going for a walk, it could be going for a run, it could be doing kickboxing, tennis, or running, or whatever it may be. So if I was therefore eating something and feeling tired, then the food isn't serving the purpose of energy. It's serving the purpose of slowing me down or feeling fatigued or lethargic, whatever it may be. So when I noticed that I was eating these foods and not feeling like that, and also able to exercise straight away, which is a hard thing for me because I would have to go to work and then go to training, then go back to work, then go back to training, that I needed to eat in between those small windows. But if you can imagine getting hit around by 120 kilo guys,
yeah,
plays havoc on your body,
of course
particularly,
it would.
your digestive system, that you can't really eat like a heavy load of protein, be it chicken, steak, whatever it may be, and feel like you're going to be fine doing those things. Where I felt very comfortable having hemp seed, lentils, tofu, and all these other proteins, and not feeling like that.
That's
So
great.
that's when I started noticing that I could fit a lot more in, and still feel like I could perform optimally. So that was probably one of the main takeaways that I started noticing. That, and also post the session, I could get down a plant protein shake, be it with pea protein, rice protein, sachinchi, hemp seeds, whatever it may be, and feel like settled. Even though I'd been running around and I would feel a lot going on, I would feel quite comfortable. So
Yeah, that's amazing.
that was the biggest thing.
Yeah, definitely. And in terms of speaking of recovery, that's such a crucial part of the entire, athletic career. So, how did being plant-based and having all of those different plant-based proteins impact you in a way that you feel that maybe the animal ones wouldn't have?
Yeah, I think
It's
so.
inflammation largely, isn't it?
Yeah, that was my big thing in the aspect of just going that, particularly for what we were doing, where you're banging your body up significantly. Like it's already inflamed, no matter which way you look at it. Someone's pulling and tearing and hitting you, and there's lots of both micro and major trauma that's occurring there. So the last thing you need when you're consuming a food is something that is further promoting inflammation, be it wherever that inflammation is occurring, because your body is red hot with all the trauma and damage that's occurred. That whatever you're consuming post the activity needs to be, one, soothing on digestive system, but two, still provide the protein to muscles that require the recovery aspect, but at the same time shouldn't be inflaming your body. So that was where it was very simple, that I thought that whatever I consume post this, I want to be like very neutral, pH aligned, not inflaming me further, and which in turn doesn't help the recovery process. Your joints are the things that probably cop the most damage, that I didn't want them being sore. So that's why this made a lot of sense.
Yeah, completely. I get it. And so, just off the top of your head, what are some of the key ingredients that you make sure that you have in your diet on a daily basis, particularly when you were performing as an athlete, but even now as well in your daily life? Is there anything that you feel is vital in terms of nutritional?
Yeah, I probably eat better now than I did when I was an athlete, because it's just more. Things have also come along so far. Like, I haven't played football for 10 years, but the development of plant-based foods has 10x during that period of time. I wish it was like that back then, but now there's like no shortage of obviously really, really cool, novel, great food sources, and ease of accessibility for them. So for me, my big thing more than anything is I always start my day with getting as much micronutrients in as possible before the rest of the day begins. One,
And
from
how do you
immunity.
do that? Like, so just run us through what that would look like.
I have a greens powder
Okay.
to start off the day. So I have a greens powder with a squeeze of lemon juice and over a liter of water. This is the one way I can ensure like almost nutritional or health insurance, where if I have missed something during the course of a day, I know I've got it at the start of the day. That's
Great.
vitamin A, C, K, B12, whatever it is. And People take multivitamins. There's nothing wrong with that. I just prefer not to take something that's potentially synthetic in nature, which allows a better bioavailability of absorption. So the greens powder for me, just taking a full spectrum one that has all the vitamins, but getting all the serves of veggies, all the serves of fruits that I possibly can in the biggest hit, like biggest bang for buck. So I do that first thing. Due to the lack of sleep I get being a business owner and having two kids, obviously have coffee just because it's a hard to get through days on 4 or 5 hours sleep. I don't recommend it, but it's just the nature of the beast. So I rather train and exercise after I have my nutritional dense shake. So I'll go to the gym, train directly after the gym. I'll have my recovery shake. I'm fortunate enough to own a sports nutrition brand, a plant-based one. So very lucky in that aspect that the protein I take is called Reload, CMBT Reload. So that's a recovery matrix protein that has turmeric, all your proteins, probiotics, bioperine. The proteins are made up of pea protein, rice protein, watermelon seed protein, pumpkin seed protein. So you get a full spectrum of the amino acids. So I have that. And so that's all done before 7 a.m. So I've ensured that I've hopefully met at least half my target for fruits, veggies, and protein, but it's all done very quickly. And then the rest of the day, I tend not to eat breakfast just because I almost go through a fasting process and feel I don't need to, which is great.
Do you feel that that heightens your mental clarity and your focus and your productivity when you do? It's intermittent fasting, essentially.
Yeah, effectively in a way. I think I'm just I've trained myself to do that now that my body also recognizes that it doesn't need all the time to do that in the morning. My mornings are busy as well, so I'm kind of all good with just getting by on the shakes and the greens because I feel like I've got the bulk of a good load of nutrients in to keep me sustained. And then by the time I hit lunch and the last of that type of stuff, it's usually a good spectrum of a big salad that's made up of, I'm big on spinach for iron levels and everything like that.
Great.
A big salad that will have some type of plant protein paired with it. And that will go from anything from lentils through to tofu, through to try to find some clean mock meats if I'm ever feeling like just wanting to mix things up. So that's a very simple process for lunch. And then usually for dinners, I've been really big on a lot of the plant-based minces, which have been like fortified. They've been really a savior because when I did eat meat, it was like kind of a thing, like the versatility of being able to have tacos with a good plant protein source and avocados and tomatoes and lettuce and spinach and all that type of stuff is easily rolled into one, or even a shepherd's pie I cooked last night with same thing, all the veggies. Yeah. So due to my time poorness, most of my meals tend to be something that I can make and then consume over a large period of time. So hence the plant mince, but then being able to pack it with veggies and lentils and all those other types of things makes it a bit easier.
Yeah, so it sounds like your approach is really about fueling first, and the pleasure of eating is still present, but it's certainly far more a mindful approach to what you're doing. I think that's brilliant because it maintains a level of nutritional excellence and it ensures that you're going to get, as you say, everything that your body needs. And you really, at the end of the day, when you've got systems like, I mean, it's really a system and a routine that you've set up, it's sort of setting yourself up for success to not only maintain the plant-based diet, but do it in a way that is just, gives you peak performance and across the entire sort of gamut of your life as well. With everything you're doing, you're so busy, and that's great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You created and invented one of the world's very first plant-based baby formulas. So can you just tell us a bit more about that and evolution of your company?
Yeah. So I was kind of alluding to before, obviously heavily around athletic science and sports performance and peak performance, but That was when I didn't have kids. So by the time I was 27, and had my first son, Ellis, and like anything, I think your world changes very quickly when someone is reliant and dependent on you, and your world becomes their world. So I moved away from, not moved away, I was very much wanting to eat healthy and all those types of things. Jen, my wife, we were fortunate enough that she was able to breastfeed for a really long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was like a small bump in the road where she suffered some mastitis, and then she was like, "Oh, my milk supply is drying up due to this, and it's quite painful." And just wanting to be pre-planned and prepared, I went, "Well, if your milk supply is drying up now, well, we kind of need to get ahead of this. We're going to have to get a formula." And that was the first time I really had to think about formula, when he was
Yeah,
like
of
10
course.
months old or 11 months old. And I said, I'll just go down to the store. But by this stage, for example, you go down to the store and you go to the milk aisle, and it's all plant-based milks. That's one whole aisle in itself. No doubt there's a dairy milk aisle, but it's so big that, because I was so used to buying all these plant-based foods, it was just, to me, I thought I'd just go down there and buy the plant-based formula, the same way I buy the plant-based milk. But I went down there and I was like, hold on a second, there is no plant-based formula. There was a soy formula that had a lot of nasty ingredients in there that also included animal-derived ingredients. So that was really plant-based. So then I went, well, maybe it's just because I'm shopping at the supermarket. I'll go to the pharmacy. There's nothing at the pharmacy. Then I went, I'll go to the health food store that has to have it, because they're specifically looking for health options. There was nothing there. And then I went online and just searched for what felt like 3 to 4 hours.
And
And
nothing
just
on Amazon, or because it's
nothing.
hard. It's also difficult for us to import certain foods and certain supplements, even
Sure.
trying to get nutritional supplements can be somewhat difficult to get them through customs, or you have to
Yeah.
pay a lot to get them through if you can get them. Usually it
Yeah.
just says this product is not available to be shipped to your country or something like
Yeah.
that. So
Exactly. Yeah.
interesting.
And even if, to be honest, I'm fortunate, I know a lot of people in different parts of the world. If I had found something online,
Mm,
and someone, let's just say it was in the UK or Europe or the US, and
mm.
so they had something there, I would have just told a friend, hey, can you go and buy this? And I would have just got them to ship it to me in a whole lot, in
Yeah.
bulk. It just wasn't an option at
So
all. And so
interesting.
I
In
just
this
kind of,
day and age, it's so surprising, don't you think? I mean, I just feel like the plant-based movement's come such a long way, but to still not have that. So what year was that in that you?
so Ellis was born in 2015, and he would have been turning one, just near one at the time. So 2016, the start of 2016
So
was when,
really not that long ago. That's just incredible. Yeah.
yeah. And so when that happened, I just kind of went, well, if I was to do this, and just taking my experience of how I looked at it, and went, when I wanted to go from doing a dairy protein to a plant protein,
Mm,
what if I wanted to go from a dairy formula to a plant-based formula?
mhm.
Um, does the same logic apply in terms of replacing proteins, replacing carbs, fats, vitamins, and how would that look? And
Mhm.
so I went, okay, well, let me take all the aspects of the things I know and try and replace them. So instead of using sugar or a milk solid, why don't I use rice? Because there's no allergens, it's clean,
Brilliant.
well tolerated in kids, and start with that as a base. And then I don't want to use dairy proteins. Why don't I use pea and rice protein together? Because then I'll get the full amino acid profile that's required. Oils, similar type of thing. And you just went through the process one by one and picking each.
Amazing.
And then I was like, well, theoretically this works, like on paper. Like I can replace every single one of these ingredients with a plant-based option. Can I source these ingredients? And fortunately, I had a background where I knew suppliers and knew how to get those ingredients. So I got all those ingredients in,
Mhm.
and just did a really quick blend benchtop, which was basically taking the Thermomix and just going, put these ingredients together, 100-gram samples, blend this out, make a 2 kilo lot. Obviously, I was still very lucky that Ellis and Jen still had milk frozen, so we were able to
Okay.
still turn through that. But I said, why don't I try this in between, like the feeds, just to see what it's like and he reacts to it, and he reacted really, really well.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and then from there, it was like a case of anyone that's a parent knows they stop breastfeeding after a time period and they stop requiring formula, which was for him maybe 16 months
Okay.
in. And I was kind of like, well, I was only intending of having one child. So I was kind of like, well, it's crazy that a plant-based formula doesn't exist, but do I need it now?
Mm.
No, but I do want other people to experience it. But I kept going on with the other plant-based businesses I had because they were paying the bills and I needed to keep them going forward. And then 3 years later, 2.5 years later, I found out I was having Kingston, our second son. And then I was like, I can't go through that process again. And this must be a reason that's calling me back to wanting to deliver this outcome eventually. So I
Definitely.
put down the tools for what I was doing with the other businesses in hospitality, and then went all in on Sprout to develop this to make it a commercial product. Yeah. So after I went all in on Sprout, I realized the infant formula industry is $100 billion industry. So I didn't sit there naively thinking that myself in Burleigh, Gold Coast, was just going to create this plant-based product or plant-based and organic infant formula and there not be ruffle any feathers or people say, what is this, like witchcraft or whatever it may have you. I knew that it was going to come with some issues. So beyond anything else, I went through all the regulatory and legal aspects.
Mm.
Just finding out like what is the standards for this product in New Zealand and Australia, which is for Zanza. And I was fortunate that due to knowing what it was like for sports nutrition, I just have to research it for infant formula. Strictest in any country in the world that we
Right.
have in Australia, which is great.
How does it
But
compare with the sports nutrition? Is it even more strict again, or
way more strict.
is it?
Rightfully so. You're
Yeah.
feeding babies, and
Yeah.
at that time of life, taking something detrimental can be lethal. So
Yeah.
I completely understand why it is. But at the same time, I also started to wonder, how could there not be a plant-based option? There must be reasons, because I'm not a genius or anything, but there must be reasons for people not wanting to see this. And clearly it's a heavily controlled industry that is made up of the dairy conglomerates.
Mhm.
And for that reason, it makes sense that you don't see other plant-based options because the created barriers so high that make it really hard from both a legal and regulatory aspect. But we managed to keep working away, doing everything we can from a legal point of view. Every day is a new fight with different things, but
Amazing.
went into it knowing that we were going to have a massive fight and battle on our hands that we were prepared for. And so got myself together with a great team of partners that we're all still doing it together today, and just started the process of the journey of going, let's get our regulatory aspect in order, let's get all our packaging in order, let's get research and a board of professionals, be it doctors, midwives, pharmacists, dietitians, you name it, around and investigating every angle, researching every angle, advising everything we can possibly think of. Let's get the best industry professionals that we can that have been in the industry, from Wayne Wilton, who basically was one of the people that started Bellamy's. He was the head of product and research and everything in that, and make sure we're doing everything above board. We don't want to be a dairy for the business, but we understand that if he's pioneered the space in organic, there's lots of lessons to be learned.
Mhm.
We just need to tweak them for plant, which is, we've been very fortunate enough to have him get expert advice from ex-CEOs, be it Christy Carr from Barbers or Dennis Lynn, and just do our best to really remain agile, take all the advice that we possibly can, because we are new entrants,
Mm.
and learn and educate ourselves as best as possible.
That's incredible. So, how long did the process take, in terms of formulation and developing the entire product? not only the baby formula, but you've also got other products as well, which I'd love to talk about, but specifically the baby formula, because I mean, there's a lot of research that, as you say, that's involved. So from start of, you know, the conceptualization of it to launching on and being available for sale.
Yeah, well, it's the fortunate thing is I know years fly by, which makes it hard to remember most things. But in this case, it's easy because for me, it's just 1 year after Ellis was born was the concept effectively. So he's 8 now, so 7 years to today. But from the time that we launched, when he was 5 and Kingston was 2. So it was 4 years for us to launch into market. And we started with snack bars, but then formula actually came out a year post that. So it was 5 years post the concept coming through.
Yeah, fantastic. And so the snack bars you've got as well. What are some of the ingredients in both the snack bars and also in the formula as well? And how have they been received by your customers essentially?
Yeah. So for us, whilst it seems complex, we try to make our products as simple as possible. At the end of the day, babies are just really tiny humans, but we're all humans all the same. So we just try to make them as simple as possible with recognizable ingredients.
That's great.
No E numbers or anything like that. Like just because it's formula doesn't mean, I think they've labeled formula to be scientific, but formula is food. Like you're supposed to be giving them the best optimal food options that are available, fortified with vitamins and minerals that would come from breast milk. So in our case, from the bars, for example, we just use all things being natural as possible, from sultanas to bananas, to blueberries, to super berries, to quinoa. They're an allergen-friendly brand, so we avoid nuts. Not that I have something against nuts, it's just that due to the allergy population, particularly in infants, it can be dangerous. So we don't do anything with nuts within our bars or anything like that. And then with the formula, we try to go off a similar principle where organic rice, starch or carbohydrates, organic pea protein, organic rice protein, organic coconut oil, organic sunflower oil, organic algae to make up our fats of DHA, coconut oil. Yeah, so it's really just trying to basically harness what Mother Nature has given us and put it in a more easily consumable format.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And so if you've got a parent or if you know of anybody that's looking for a formula for their baby, what would be the advantages of having the plant-based formula over the conventional formula? And I guess some parents moving into that, you know, first-time parents particularly, what, you know, if they've got any concerns, what would you say to them?
Yeah, I would say I respect everyone's choice, and I'm hopeful that all parents are able to breastfeed even for a portion. That's simply sometimes isn't the case. Like, it's an imperfect world. So whilst we all wish for that for everyone, sometimes it doesn't happen. When you aren't able to breastfeed, I guess what you're looking for is a formula that you know will provide your child sustenance, but isn't going to cause any type of allergenic reaction. Is the next thing you're looking for when I think of what a parent would be looking for. And you have to realize that within 1 in 10 kids has some type of food allergy. So whilst most aren't fatal by any means, that can upset their sleep, can upset their digestive system, can make them colicky, windy, and all those types of things. And it's hard enough being a parent as it is, let alone struggling with a child that is unsettled because something isn't sitting right with them. So what we just looked at was just going, if we can provide a formula that doesn't have any of those issues, be it an allergy issue, but can also be organic. And the reason for organic means that we've avoided pesticides, we've avoided chemicals, we've avoided synthetic materials, which clearly you don't want a child to have. Like, no one wants a child to have anything like that. Well, we've done a pretty good job to ensure they're getting the best advantage and start if they're unable to breastfeed. Whether you're choosing plant-based or not, I would encourage every parent to make sure you choose organic. Like I have great admiration for the Bellamy's of the world and the Bubs of the world and those types. People think that's strange, but I at least know that, sure, they may not be plant-based and I'm not pushing a message or narrative, but they've avoided the nasties that can really, really harm a child, be it preservatives, be it additives, be it chemicals and synthetics. So they've at least moved away from that. So pick organic wherever possible. If you are concerned about allergies within your child, then obviously we're a great option when looking at it. And more than anything, turn the tin over and just see if you can recognize the ingredients. If you can't make out what something is, and look over to the fruit and vegetable aisle or whatever aisle, food aisle, and recognize that that's food, it's probably not good for your child. So that's probably the biggest thing to look for.
What are some of those nasties and those numbers and ingredients that parents need to be really, really careful of that are potentially harmful for their children ingesting, or even themselves on food labels that you know of?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the list is endless, so I don't want to like bore someone or the audience with scientific things, but I will simply say, just the most common ingredient in infant formula, so I'll do infant formula because that's where we're playing in, is glucose syrup solid. Is the number one ingredient that's in the majority of infant formulas that are on shelf. Or it can be talked as fructose syrup solid. That's a fancy way of saying sugar. Like, in all honesty, there's no other way to look at it that you are looking at a tin and it's packaged nice, but you're giving your child just a bag of sugar plus vitamins and minerals that have to be added within there. If a parent was looking at something and they understood that, which some don't, they wouldn't give that to their child. But because of the way it's presented, that's the number one thing I would say is the common ingredient that parents don't realize what type of blood glucose dump that's occurring on their child by providing them a product that starts with that as the number one core ingredient. Then from there, in all honesty, if it has a number or an E or a something in front of it, just common sense tells you that it's really lab derived. It's not going to be good for you. Like it is made from a natural whole source. So just trying to avoid anything like that is the biggest one.
Yeah, right. Your company's already received significant recognition and success. You've won the World Innovation Awards, is that right?
Yeah, the World Food Innovation Award.
So tell us a little bit about that. That's fantastic. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. It was last year that we won it, and I think we were pretty fortunate that we were out of COVID at the time, just fresh out of COVID in 2022. And the World Food Innovation Awards is a global award that's held in Europe, in London. And it was just one of those things where we submitted it just thinking, what chance do we really have for just a small company that's just started? And we submitted it for the plant-based and organic infant formula product that we have. And we were just overwhelmed and surprised that I logged on just via online just to watch the ceremony and see what massive company was going to take out the award, because couldn't afford to fly there.
Right.
Secondly, things were still a bit sketchy in different countries with COVID. Like, could I get stuck there? Me and my partners, we didn't really know. So it was just kind of like, let's submit it, know that we submitted it. We knew that we were going to get announced as a nominee, and we thought that was even a really massive effort in itself. And then when they came back and they announced that we had won it, it was just like
amazing.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was.
You just must have been so proud, and your wife so proud as well.
Yeah, it was an amazing day. Night for us, it was their day at the time, but then in the morning, being able to come and tell the team, and we're a small team, that we had done something on a global stage, and regardless of where we get to, we know that we've made an impact, in even if it's in the smallest way. Just really rewarding.
Amazing.
And yeah, really proud of the team for their efforts to get us to this time point.
Yeah, definitely. So how did COVID and what sort of limitations did you experience during that time? How did COVID impact that?
Yeah, it was a crazy time. Obviously, being a very innovative, different type of product. Usually, the way you win people over with something like this is go to visit them, explain the product.
Mm.
We weren't allowed to do any of that. Like, we couldn't get to a store. So you can imagine sending an email to someone that had never heard of a plant-based or organic
Yeah.
infant formula. Their reaction to it was basically like, no, we're in COVID. One, two, you can't come and tell us about this product. People can't come to stores and all these different types of stuff. We're not going to be allowed into these places. We're going to have to launch online effectively. And it was a risk because, in all honesty, people purchasing infant formula online wasn't a thing. I think it just wasn't a thing back then. Then COVID hit and that changed how people shop and behave. So we launched online and built up as much demand online as we possibly could,
So smart.
because people would come to visit us. The moment we're able to open the borders, we're able to just like go hard and get as many retailers. Where we're able to get 500 retailers in the first 6 months,
Oh, that's
once,
brilliant.
and then 1,000 in 12 months, and 1,500 in a year and a half, and just kept going from there.
Yeah, that's incredible. So what advice would you have for an aspiring entrepreneur that perhaps might be looking to launch their own product in the plant-based world, to make a positive impact? What advice would you have for them?
I'd probably say, more than anything, do it for the reasons of changing and disrupting and making things better. If you go into it thinking you're going to make money, you're not for a long period of time. And we, like right now, don't either. Where every dollar we get, we reinvest straight back in to create change. And if you are about change, if you're about sustainability, if you're about leaving the world a better place or creating a better future, that's something that everyone can get behind. And you are doing it to a certain extent, I'll admit, on a leap of faith, that you believe that the payoff will be there down the track. But what you can take away from it is, no matter what, be it the money or wherever you end up, is that you may change if you have something that is impactful and positive. And not many people get to say that
Yeah,
during
I
their
agree.
journey or career in this life. So I think using that as your anchor is the most important thing, because it will get really hard if you're doing something innovative, and it will become very challenging, to the point that you go like, you'll question yourself, like, why am I doing this? Like, not getting paid for it. You wholeheartedly believe in that why, that you're creating something positive and creating a better future that can get you through.
I
So
agree.
that's the biggest advice.
It takes an enormous amount of tenacity and commitment and dedication, and sacrifice too, especially when you've got young kids. How did you manage your time, and balance that with having a family life and being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I mean, I would lie if I said that it was easy, or there are times that you weren't 100% present for everything, and you're under the pump a lot. I'm relatively good at being able to manage time and just go. Um, if I want something to do something for myself, it has to be away from my children's time. So if I'm going to exercise or see a friend, I do it when they're asleep. So I'll either do that 4:30 in the morning or 9 p.m. at night. So I dedicate the time that they're awake or they're with me for them, as best as I possibly can. I think the other thing is just understanding that everyone's balance is different, everyone's threshold is different. People look for work-life balance. I really don't. I just look at wanting outcomes, great outcomes, be it for my family, be it for the business, and whatever it takes to get those outcomes, I'm all for. So I don't think of a 40-hour week, 50-hour week, 80-hour week. I just think this is what's required to be done this week, and we'll do whatever it takes to get there. And my son Ellis has a soccer game, and I'll do whatever it takes to be there for that. But there's certain priorities that I won't miss for the family, but there's also priorities the business has that I have to take care of. So I think just really prioritizing what's important is the biggest thing you can do to ensure that you feel in control and able to deliver outcomes.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And so what would you say one of the greatest lessons that you've learned in this journey from going from being an athlete and moving into being an entrepreneur full time?
Probably the biggest lesson I've learned is that everything almost has relevance to each other. That discipline, no matter what you're doing, transfers over. So discipline as an athlete transfers over to being disciplined as an entrepreneur. Hard work as an athlete transfers over to being hard work as an entrepreneur. They just come in different formats. It just may mean you're not lifting as many weights or doing reps physically, but you have to do the exact same thing from a mental aspect. And teamwork as a team on a football field is just equally as important as teamwork in a business environment. So the relevances of sport and endeavors come straight across to business. I guess the characteristics of what makes someone a great athlete or whatever it may be in their chosen professional field will often carry across to whatever may happen in the business world. I think repetition, discipline, being understanding that often taking calculated risk is vitally important, both on a pitch or a field, as well as it is in business. Same with teamwork, that you can be the most talented person in a team and you can be the smartest person in a business environment, but if you don't know how to work with your team, it's going to lead to nothing. It's all for naught, because it's the sum of many that will lead to the greatest outcome at the end. So I feel that there's just so many relatable aspects to it, that if you take the good parts and are able to transfer them across, you can do pretty well.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Have you had any role models or any mentors on your journey that have just really made an incredible impact, and who would they be, both as an athlete and also as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think my dad's probably the person. I've just been really fortunate enough to see someone that's it was very easy to see what hard work led to as an outcome, and showed me that anything is possible. Being a kid from Africa, where ultimately the percentage of him being able to be where he is as a doctor in engineering from coming a small village in West Africa would be 0.00001. If anything, you probably have a better chance of winning the lotto, in all honesty, than being able to get to the position he got to or has got to. And that was just straight due to hard work. There was no secret to it. He just gave everything that he possibly could to studying, to eventually finding his way out of Africa, to getting to Melbourne, to finishing his PhD, to working 5 jobs to support the family.
Amazing.
To eventually starting his own business as a geotechnical engineer. And I don't think, whilst yes, in my journey I've been fortunate enough to meet some of the world's best athletes and some of the smartest and brightest people in the world, having that person like as part of my bloodline makes me just know that it really is possible. There's no separation or a detachment from it, thinking that person did this. Like, I was able to witness it firsthand, what hard work can deliver for you. So may have not been on the athletic field, but I knew that hard work would transfer if dependent whichever way I was hopeful to go. So he's definitely the biggest person that I look up to in that aspect.
That's amazing. And in terms of nutrition, what are do you have a couple of hacks that you could share with the viewers? Whether it be related to protein, or is there a particular recipe that you have for a recovery smoothie, or a pre-workout drink that you have, or something that you could share that might benefit them in their own journey?
Yeah, cool. Probably the way I think of nutrition is I try not to make things too complex because I find that's where people go wrong with nutrition. Really simply think of things as carbs, protein, fats, and micronutrients. And by micronutrients, I refer to vitamins, minerals, folic acids, aminos, the smaller parts of things that your body needs to be able to maintain nutritional optimal. I think when looking at carbohydrates, look at them and try and find as many complex carbohydrates as possible. Try and stay away from refined carbohydrates. Refined carbohydrates are sugars, breads, so forth, pastas. Most people, I'm sure, know what they are. Look for complex carbohydrates wherever possible that give you long-lasting energy. They're low GI, provide your body with great fuel. Brown rice, sweet potatoes, fibrous vegetables that have a carbohydrate source are always the best way to look at carbs. When looking at proteins, for me personally, I look at almost bang for buck, if that makes sense. That if you were to pick up if you're a meat eater, a 300-gram steak, hypothetically, that may provide you 30 grams of protein. But if I picked up a small handful of dried split peas or lentils or something like that, that would provide the same amount of protein without the heaviness to it. So I'm always, for protein, looking for gram per gram in terms of what can provide me the most optimal source. I usually aim for 20 grams of protein, 20 to 30 grams of protein in the sitting. So if I can't get it directly from food, if I'm on the run, I'll get it from a shake. Like I said, I'm fortunate enough to have a company called CMBT that has protein shakes. But if you're looking for other protein shakes, look for a plant protein shake that contains a myriad of proteins: pea, rice, fava bean, etc. So you get a full amino acid profile. So I look for that with the proteins. With the oils, I try to look for really good oils. Hemp is my favorite oil because it contains the full spectrum of omegas, and it has an anti-inflammatory component to it as well. When it's referring, that's for a daily oil. When it's referring to cooking, look for coconut oil, really high smoke point and temperature, so it doesn't go rancid and doesn't denature when you turn up the temperature on it. So that's the oils. And then the micronutrients, as many fruits and vegetables and as colourful plate as possible. But as I referred to before, can be hard if you're busy. Hence why I get a greens powder that I can either throw into smoothies or just have with water.
Yeah, it's so convenient, especially if you're traveling too.
Exactly. And then I know that I didn't miss out on the fruits and veggies, that I could get a full dose within a 5 to 10 gram serve. So yeah, that's the main parts.
That's brilliant. And if somebody's looking to go more plant-based, and yeah, just increase the veggies into their diet, have you got any advice for them or wisdom that you can share? What would be a great approach if they're starting from scratch and they're sort of don't have a lot of knowledge around it? They may have even seen the documentary Game Changers, which I'm sure you probably know of. It was brilliant documentary.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to them?
I think probably the best advice I could give, which will make them probably understand food more, is go to a farmer's market rather than going to a grocery store. Yeah. So yeah, if you can get to a farmer's market, it's definitely a way to actually see, like, these people grew this food. And if you talk to them for all of 10 seconds, you would actually get a really good understanding of where the food is coming from. And the reason why you go to a farmer's market and go, oh, like, you don't see a whole lot of animal-based products at farmers markets, because you start to realize these farmers harvest their foods, they grow their foods, they care for their foods, and they're delivering it to you directly from their farm. And then it creates that connection where you start to go, okay, this is how food is derived, compared to if you walk into a fancy grocery store and everything's packaged and everything like that, you lose the connection of where the food is actually coming from.
Definitely agree.
You'll start to create a better connection with your food, and then that will ultimately lead to a better understanding, and that understanding will probably lead to you consuming more plant-based foods.
Yeah, brilliant. I love that. That's so great. And I think it's super important to take kids to a farmer's market as well. And taking them to the farmer's market, you're right, it's an educational experience for them. And I think it sets them up for the rest of their life, and
Yep.
super important. The success of your company has been incredible and it's super inspiring. So, how has your life changed since launching your company, launching your products? Yeah, just as a whole.
It's been busier. That's for sure. I think probably the thing that's probably changed the most is we have a lot of people that I feel now responsible for, business owners and shareholders and everything like that. But probably I feel a level of responsibility of all the parents and families that have even just bought our product once or twice or whatever, that we have a duty to continue on this mission to deliver a great end outcome, because I don't take it for granted that them trusting us to deliver a food product for their child is something I take very serious, and I'm very humbled by the aspect that we're able to feed so many kids. So it's probably just an understanding that this is a lot bigger than us, and we're all trying our best to obviously deliver the best outcome we possibly can.
That's brilliant. So, what would you say? I mean, what's coming up next for you and your company, and your family and your team as a whole? And do you have any new products in the works at the moment?
Yeah, well, right now we're right in the middle of the crowd fundraise. So that's been the biggest thing of we're raising some capital for international expansion, and we're doing it through probably a more modern way where we're putting it out on a virtual as the platform we're doing it with, and we're opening the offer to everyone and anyone can be involved in Sprout Organic for as little as $250,
Okay,
or
that's
or
incredible.
if you want to invest. But different to like going to a venture capital group and saying, could we have $1 million to 10x that million in X period of time? It's basically saying anyone that's been a customer of Sprout, or anyone that believes in plant-based and organic and a better future for our next generations, can come on board this journey.
That's brilliant.
You can invest, you literally go to virtual, very simple process. You can read all about our company, our financials and everything like that, and then you can invest from there. And you become part of the Sprout team effectively. You become a
Amazing.
part owner in the business. So yeah, that's right now what's really the big miss. And then post that, we've got new products, but all my focus right now is on that.
Yeah, so exciting. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for being here today, Selasi. It's just been extraordinary to hear your story. And I think that your dedication to health is just really admirable. And I'm sure that you're touching lives all over the world, and also families as well, having such an incredible impact and a positive one. Can you please tell us, where can everybody find you on the web? So I can put it all in the description below.
Yeah, sure. So for me personally, email is usually the best. You can reach me on SEL at sproutorganic.com.au.
Okay, great.
In regards to Sprout's website, sproutorganic.com.au is the website. You can find me on LinkedIn as well if it's anything related to business. I'm not big on social media. I just simply don't have the time. So I
Understandable.
tend not to be on Facebook, or I do have an Instagram, but I rarely use it. So those are the easiest ways, to get in touch and see what we're doing
Brilliant.
and go from there.
Fantastic. Thank you so much again. And to all of our viewers, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Until next time, bye for now. Thank you.